Have you ever wondered what happens when a simple meal changes the destiny of an entire village? In the heart of Africa, long ago, where the sun burned golden on the fields and the night carried whispers of unseen spirits, there lived a small village at the edge of a deep forest. One evening, as the fires crackled and the children huddled close to hear tales, a stranger appeared at the gates of the village. His clothes were torn, his feet covered in dust, and his eyes carried the weight of secrets untold. He asked for nothing but one thing, a meal. Just a single meal, before he continued his journey. The villagers were divided. Some whispered, "Feed him. It is our way to welcome the weary." But others shook their heads, "No. Who knows what spirits follow strangers in the dark?" And so, the fate of the village hung on one simple question: who would dare to feed a man whose shadow seemed longer than the night itself? The stranger sat quietly under the baobab tree, waiting. His silence was unsettling, yet his presence carried a pull that none could resist. Mothers hushed their children, elders exchanged wary glances, and hunters tightened their spears. Then, an old widow named Mama Olamide, with nothing but a clay pot of yam porridge left for her own supper, rose from her hut. Her voice trembled as she said, "If a man asks for food, and we refuse, what does that say of our hearts? Let me give him what I have." And so, she carried the pot to the stranger. He looked at her, his eyes deep and strange, like they held stories older than the trees. He took the meal slowly, and as he ate, the night grew unnaturally still. Even the crickets stopped their song. When he finished, he spoke for the first time. His voice was soft, but it echoed as if it came from the depths of the earth itself. "Tonight, because of your kindness, this village will see what it has never seen before. But beware, what you give freely will return to you, greater than you imagine." The people gasped. Some believed he was a spirit in disguise, others a wandering trickster. But Mama Olamide only lowered her head and returned to her hut. She did not know that from that moment, her simple act of kindness had changed not just her fate, but the destiny of everyone who lived in the village. From that night onward, strange things began to happen. The village well, once shallow, suddenly overflowed with the clearest, sweetest water anyone had ever tasted. The crops, which had been wilting under the sun, grew tall and green overnight. Hunters returned with more game than they had ever caught before. But with blessings came fear. Because with each sunrise, the villagers noticed something else. Whenever they gathered to eat, there was always a place left empty, as though the stranger's presence lingered among them. Some swore they saw him at the edge of the forest, watching silently. Others claimed to hear his voice in the wind, whispering warnings no one could understand. And then, one night, a terrible omen came. That night, the moon rose blood red, casting its strange glow across the village. The elders gathered under the baobab tree, where the stranger had first sat, their voices low and troubled. "Blessings too heavy for the hands of men often carry curses," muttered Baba Kofi, the oldest among them, his beard white as palm fibers. "We must seek the truth. Who was this stranger, and why does his shadow linger here?" But before they could decide, a loud cry tore through the night. It was Ao, the young hunter, his body trembling as though struck by unseen hands. He shouted, "I saw him. I swear by Ogun, I saw him in the forest. He was not walking, no, he floated, like mist upon the ground." Fear spread like fire. Some villagers pressed their children close, others whispered prayers to the gods. Mama Olamide, however, sat quietly in her hut, her clay lamp flickering. She remembered the stranger's words, "What you give freely will return greater than you imagine." She wondered, was this blessing, or was it a warning yet to unfold? The next morning, when the sun rose, the village woke to yet another marvel. The land that once took weeks of toil to yield harvest now burst with yam tubers as large as drums, maize taller than a man, and fruits ripened overnight. The villagers danced with joy, thanking the gods, forgetting their fear. But blessings have a way of stirring envy. From a neighboring village across the river, whispers began to spread. Messengers carried tales: the village of the baobab is thriving. Their fields overflow, their waters run sweet, their game is plentiful. The neighboring chief, greedy and ambitious, gathered his warriors. If they have riches, they must be hiding something. We will take it from them. That night, as the village of the baobab celebrated their sudden fortune with drumming and song, the neighboring warriors crept silently through the forest. Their spears gleamed, their hearts filled with greed. But as they reached the edge of the village, a strange mist rolled in, thick, heavy, and cold as death. From within the mist came the sound of footsteps. Not one. Not many. Just one, slow, steady, deliberate. And then they saw him. The stranger. His eyes glowed like embers in the dark. His voice carried through the mist, though his lips barely moved. Turn back. What is not yours cannot be taken. The warriors laughed, raising their spears. But as they charged forward, the ground beneath them trembled. Roots, thick as snakes, burst from the earth, wrapping around their legs, pulling them down. Their cries echoed into the night as the mist swallowed them whole. When dawn broke, the village found no trace of the warriors, only their spears scattered on the forest floor, and the silence of the trees watching. The people were shaken. Some fell to their knees, declaring the stranger a guardian spirit sent to protect them. Others whispered darker thoughts: what spirit feasts on warriors in the night? What price will we pay for this protection? Mama Olamide, once more, felt the weight of his eyes upon her. That evening, as she stirred her pot of stew, the wind carried his voice again, soft, almost tender: what you give freely will return to you. But remember, every gift carries a shadow. Days turned into weeks, and the village prospered beyond measure. Traders from far and wide came, marveling at the abundance. The people grew proud, their songs loud, their feasts endless. But with wealth came pride, and with pride came forgetfulness. They forgot the hunger that once bound them together. They forgot the lesson of kindness that had started it all. And slowly, greed began to creep into their hearts. One fateful evening, the chief of the village, swollen with pride, stood before the people. Why should we share our wealth with strangers? Did the gods not bless us alone? From now on, no stranger shall be fed, no wanderer welcomed. What is ours is ours. The people cheered, their voices rising like thunder. But Mama Olamide's heart grew heavy, for she remembered. She alone remembered the night of the stranger's last meal. That night, as the fires dimmed and the songs faded, she heard it again. The footsteps. Slow. Steady. Deliberate. And then, the voice. When kindness dies, so too does fortune. What you give freely will return to you. And what you withhold, will also return. The ground shivered. The wind howled. The lamps flickered and died. The village had forgotten, but the spirit had not. That night, a silence thicker than darkness settled over the village. Even the owls refused to sing, and the dogs cowered in their huts, tails tucked beneath their bodies. Mama Olamide sat awake, her heart pounding as the words of the stranger echoed in her mind. What you withhold, will also return. She clutched her wrapper close around her shoulders, staring at the clay pot that once gave her food. She could feel it, something was coming. At dawn, the first sign appeared. The well, once overflowing, now trickled like a dying stream. The villagers laughed at first, brushing it aside. Perhaps the rains will come soon, they said. But the rains did not come. The second sign followed swiftly. The maize, once taller than a man, began to bend. Their leaves shriveled, their stalks cracked, their roots withered. The yam fields, once bursting, now crumbled with dryness. Still, the people ignored the warnings. We are strong, they said. We will not starve. But then came the third sign. The hunters returned from the forest, empty-handed. No game remains, they whispered in fear. Not even the tracks of a hare. The forest has gone silent. Panic spread. Mothers clutched their children, men quarreled in the marketplace, and the chief, proud as ever, raised his staff and shouted, "Do not fear. We will keep what we have, and none will take it from us. We are a chosen people." But Mama Olamide's voice broke through the crowd. "Chosen people," she cried. "Have you forgotten? It began with a meal for a stranger. It began with kindness. And now you close your hands, you harden your hearts. You forget that blessings, like rivers, must flow or they dry up." Her words stung, but the chief sneered. "Old woman, your tongue wags too freely. Go back to your hut before I silence you." The people, blinded by fear and pride, turned their faces from her. That night, the stranger returned. Not in flesh, not in form, but in shadow. His figure rose upon the village wall as the moonlight struck, larger than any man, his outline shifting like smoke. His voice thundered through every hut, through every heart. "You were given plenty, but you chose greed. You were given abundance, but you chose pride. Now, you shall taste the hunger of the forgotten." The earth shook. The ground cracked. The baobab tree, once the heart of the village, split down its middle with a groan that echoed into the heavens. From its hollow spewed not water, not sap, but sand, dry, choking sand that swept into the streets, filling pots, covering the crops, smothering the land. The villagers screamed. Some fell to their knees, others fled toward the river, but even the river had turned shallow, its fish floating lifeless on the surface. Mama Olamide, her eyes wide with sorrow, her voice trembling. "I warned you," she whispered, though her words were lost in the roaring of the wind. "Kindness is the only seed that feeds forever." But the punishment was only beginning. The next morning, as the villagers gathered in fear, they discovered something even more terrifying. Every hut, every home, every granary had been touched. The food inside had vanished, yam, maize, cassava, even dried meat, all gone. Only empty baskets and hollow pots remained. The people wailed, their cries rising into the sky. Children clung to their mothers, elders shook their heads in despair, and the chief, once so proud, sat upon the earth like a broken man. And then, from the edge of the forest, a voice rose again, calm, steady, unyielding. "The meal you refused to share has been taken. Now learn this: hunger does not come from empty fields, but from empty hearts." The villagers turned, trembling, but the forest remained still. No man stood there. No figure walked. Only the echo of the stranger's voice carried in the wind. Mama Olamide, weary and broken, gathered the children around her. "Do not fear," she said gently, though her own heart quaked. "The spirits do not destroy without reason. There is always a lesson, always a path back." The children's eyes widened. "But Mama, what can we do?" And she answered, her voice soft yet firm, "We must remember what we have forgotten. We must give even when we have nothing. Only then will the balance return." Her words planted a small seed of hope in the hearts of the little ones. But the question remained, would the rest of the village listen, or was it already too late? The village grew weaker with each passing day. Hunger gnawed at their bellies, and despair clouded their minds. Yet Mama Olamide's words lingered like a small flame in the darkness: "We must give even when we have nothing." At first, the people scoffed. How could one give when their pots were empty? But soon, desperation humbled them. Mothers broke off tiny morsels from their last cassava roots to share with neighbors. Hunters, though they found no game, offered fruits plucked from the wild, passing them among children before taking a bite themselves. Slowly, Painfully, the village began to remember what it meant to live not as individuals, but as one. Then one evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky with fire, a wanderer appeared again at the edge of the village. Thin, ragged, his face hidden in the shadows of his hood. Fear gripped the people. Whispers rose, "It is him. The stranger has returned." But this time, no one turned away. Mama Olamide, frail but steadfast, stepped forward with a calabash in her hands. Inside was little more than what we brought, the last of what she had. She placed it before the wanderer and bowed her head. "My pot is empty, but my heart is open. Take this, for it is all I can give." The villagers followed her lead. One by one, they brought what scraps they had, a handful of maize kernels, a piece of dried leaf, a small fruit. Pitiful offerings, yet given freely, without hesitation. The wanderer lifted his head, and for the first time, his face was revealed. His eyes glowed like embers, but now they softened, warm as the heart of a home. He spoke, his voice both thunder and whisper, "You have remembered. Kindness given from plenty is easy, but kindness given from emptiness is true. Tonight, your hearts are full, and so your land shall be again." The ground beneath their feet shuddered, not with fury, but with renewal. The cracked earth softened, green shoots bursting through the soil. The dry river swelled once more, rushing with cool, clear water. The air filled with the hum of life as birds returned to the trees, and the scent of yam and maize blossomed in the fields once more. The people fell to their knees, tears of relief streaming down their faces. Mama Olamide smiled through her exhaustion, whispering, "The Spirit has tested us, and we have learned." The wanderer looked upon the village one last time. His figure began to fade, dissolving into the wind, until only his voice remained. "Remember this, every meal you share feeds not only the body, but the soul of your people. Forget again, and so shall your fortune fade." With that, he was gone. The village never forgot again. From that day, no stranger ever left their gates hungry, no wanderer ever passed without being welcomed. And though famine and hardship visited other lands, the village by the baobab thrived, carried always by the lesson of the stranger's last meal. It is a reminder that kindness is the truest wealth, and selfishness the poorest hunger.